Shalom, everybody, and welcome to week 7 of my PhD theological journey. It's crazy to think that I'm already 7 weeks in, going in on week 8. This next week is our what they call reading days. It's sort of like fall break. You get spring break. Well, this is fall break, and I'm off from both my classes, which is good because I'll be able to use this time to I don't want to say catch up because I'm not behind or anything like that, but it'll give me the opportunity to get ahead of where I need to be. For example, whenever I come back to class, not that next week, but the following on October 21st, I am facilitating the seminar in my Luther class. And in order to do that successfully, I think I saw like, if I got to count, maybe like 8 different things I got to read. Which is okay. I'm already used to it at this point, just reading a whole bunch. It's not even a big deal anymore. I saw my readings for, was it that week? I think it was that week for my Trinity class. And it's just, another 300-page book. And I was like, oh, cool, 300 pages. That's not bad at all. That's where I'm at. Reading a 300-page book in a week along with everything else and the assignments and my church responsibilities. It's not that bad anymore. I'm learning to get the hang of this stuff. So I'm grateful for that. It's been an interesting 7 weeks already, getting to the point where I'm at now. I've already turned in most of my assignments. All I have left is one more critical review, as I've done 5 out of the 6. I got to write and then my 2 huge papers. They're articles, hopefully with the intention of presenting them at like ETS conference or something like that. And whenever I went to preview day, was it preview day? No, orientation, RDS orientation. They recognized some students that did like some outstanding work or turned in some excellent papers, or some music students, I believe, that they did something as well. Everybody did something. Not everybody, but certain people did something that allowed them to be recognized by some of the faculty there. And I want to be one of those people, right? I want to do something substantial that will allow me to get recognized. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it in my Luther seminar, as I like learning about it, but I don't know that I'm finding anything novel, anything insightful, anything that I could be like, oh, I can't wait to write on this. The world has not seen this before. The paper that I'm going to be writing on, in some sense, is going to use Luther's use of Jewish commentaries in his exegesis. He relied on them heavily for a good portion of his life. And I was looking to see, being that I'm real big on Michael Heiser and the unseen realm, I wanted to see how that influences his supernatural worldview, because Luther was extremely supernatural, as we saw when we got into that book of Between God and the Devil, I think it was called, by Oberman or Heichel. One of them. I don't know. I'm losing names of the authors, but regardless, he's super supernatural, super supernatural, and he was all about that. So I want to see how rabbinic commentaries may have influenced that. And I don't even know if they did. I looked at it briefly, and it wasn't going where I was hoping it would go. So we'll see. But yeah, I'll get that paper done, and I will do well, I hope. But the one that I'm looking forward to now, which I didn't expect because I really didn't understand too much, was in my Trinity class. Eventually, we got to talking about Dr. Vadu. Yeah, he came to class last week, and I spoke about it a little bit, and I talked about what my prospectus was going to be, and I went ahead and I wrote my 2 pages on it. I'm probably going to read it for you guys here. And I think this one is going to be a good one. I'm hoping that I'll be able to present this one, as I don't know that I've ever read anything this in depth in regards to the formation of the Trinity. So I'm hoping it's going to be something good. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I think one class, for the Luther class, that page or that paper's got to be like 25, 30 pages. And then for the Trinity one, I think it's somewhere between 15 and 20. And then we're going to present that one in class. And yeah, I'm just hoping that one's good. October 30th is when I will present the one in the Trinity class. So I got to have everything done by then. And I think I will, because like I said, I already wrote up my prospectus, and I have my annotated bibliography. So I have an idea of where I'm going to go with it. Before before I get into the prospectus, I'll say some other stuff. What's going on with church. Should I get into church now? No. Let me read the prospectus. That way we can get school out of the way, and then we can talk about church, as not much is really going on at work. So we'll just get into school and church. So this was the prospectus, and should I read it? Should I share the screen? I guess I'll share the screen so you can kind of read along. Share screen, window, this whole thing, share. All right, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. 150? Yeah, that should be pretty good. So the title of my prospectus is Rabbi Akiva as a Symbol of Rabbinic Resistance to Divine Plurality and Its Role in Shaping Christian Articulation of the Trinity. Ooh, that's a long name, right? That could be on a dissertation. But this isn't what I'm going to do my dissertation on. This is just, for the time being. And again, this is just a 2-page prospectus. So what I wrote, this study investigates how the rabbinic figure Rabbi Akiva, and it's in quotes for a reason, how the rabbinic figure Rabbi Akiva functions not merely as a historical teacher, but as a symbolic locus of resistance to divine plurality in early Judaism, and how that resistance indirectly shaped Christian articulation of Trinitarian doctrine. Research began with Daniel 7, which is the shared apocalyptic text that became the exegetical crossroads of both traditions. In the Talmudic depictions of Akiva, 2 thrones are reinterpreted to preserve God's unity, one for God and one for David or the Messiah. In contrast, the New Testament writers read the same vision Christologically, enthroning the Son alongside the Ancient of Days. The friction between these readings exposes how Jewish boundary making and Christian theological expansion emerged in dialectical relations. Like I said, I believe, pause on this, I believe that a lot of how rabbinic Judaism and Christianity were formed, number one, they were developed in tandem and oftentimes in spite of each other. They were always arguing, always in confrontation, and what one person believed as orthodoxy, the other one deemed heresy, and vice versa. So this is what's going on here. So constructing Akiva as a symbolic authority. This is why I put it in quotations, right? This is my, while this isn't a new idea, I'm using it as a new idea to enforce the thought, the paradigm, if you will. So check this out. Constructing Akiva as a symbolic authority. Modern rabbinic scholarship treats Akiva less as verifiable biography than as a literary construct embodying Tannaitic hermeneutics. Boyarin intertextuality and the reading of the Midrash and Yadin Israel scripture as logos show that attribution to Akiva encode a worldview in which every textual detail bears divine meaning. Every word matters, according to them. Every word, every space between the word. So Halbertal's People of the Book and Farad's work on Sefer traditions clarify how attaching interpretations to Akiva canonizes interpretive maximalism and enforces limits on speculation about God's form. Again, not only do every single word and space between the word matter, but they make it canon. Once they put it in their rabbinic writings, that is it. This is the interpretation. That's what maximalism is, everything, and they enforce the limits. So read collectively, these studies justify treating Akiva as a school or author function that crystallizes post-70 CE rabbinic monotheism. Within the construct, Akiva's 2-throne debate dramatizes the moment when divine plurality became a heresy. It's not just an Akiva person who said the divine powers is a heresy. To me and other scholars, Akiva is a representative of a school of thought, and that school of thought would collectively say that 2 powers is a heresy. So boundary formation and the 2 powers polemic. Boundary formation is a big deal to me for a number of reasons. I won't get into that now, but here we are. Building on the symbolic Akiva, Alan Siegel, his book on 2 powers in heaven identifies the Daniel 7 controversy as pivotal in defining orthodoxy against binitarian currents common in late Second Temple Judaism. Schaeffer's work, 2 Gods in Heaven, which is like, I don't want to say the sequel because they're not even by the same person, but Schaeffer kind of upgraded the work of Siegel. Schaeffer's 2 Gods in Heaven and Rosenzweig's article on the rise and fall of the doctrine refine Siegel's thesis, showing that rabbinic redactors institutionalized Akiva's caution to distance himself both from apocalyptic speculations and emerging Christian claims. Boyarin's borderline extends the argument. Judaism and Christianity co-produce their boundaries, right? Each defining the other as heretical. Thus, Akiva's symbolic stand becomes part of a larger interreligious negotiation over the meaning of monotheism. All sounds so fancy, huh? Keep going. Christian exegesis and Trinitarian clarification. On the Christian side, Vadu, and this is the book that got me started thinking about this, The Same God Who Works All Things, traces how New Testament writers attribute Israel's divine work to Jesus and the Spirit, inaugurating the logic of inseparable operations. His analysis of Mark 14:62 can be read beside Akiva's reinterpretation of Daniel 7. And both seek to affirm divine unity while explaining plurality. Scarson, I don't know how to say that. His study of Justin Martyr shows how Jewish scriptural argumentation pressed Justin to clarify Christ's relation to the Father, while Origen's Contra Celsium demonstrates the continued need to defend plurality within unity against monotheistic critiques. Eusebius's Demonstratio Evangelica further exhibits a Christian reading of Israel's scriptures that assumes and thereby provokes rabbinic resistance. Like I said, they were hating on each other. So comparative trajectory. By reading Akiva's symbolic exegesis and the Christian appropriation of Daniel 7 side by side, the project situates Trinitarian formation within a shared interpretive field rather than an isolated Christian evolution. Now, this isn't saying that Judaism is responsible for the doctrine of the Trinity, but it did influence a little bit. At least that's my contention. Jewish insistence on exclusive unity voiced through the Akivian school forced Christians to articulate categories such as ousia and hypostasis to preserve oneness without denying the Son and Spirit's divinity. Conversely, Christian exaltation of Jesus compelled rabbinic redactors to codify the two powers in heaven as heresy, closing interpretive possibilities once common in apocalyptic Judaism. It used to be an okay thing back then, but now when the Christians wanted to take hold of it. The result was a mutually reinforcing boundary, Akiva's symbolic monotheism on one side and Nicene Trinitarian on the other side. So the method of significance, methodologically, my paper employs comparative textual analysis of Daniel 7, traditions, rabbinic and Christian, informed by literary critical readings of rabbinic persona, Boyarin and a bunch of people, and historic theology. Rather than seeking causal lines, it reconstructs an interactive polemical matrix in which Jewish and Christian interpreters negotiated divine identity. The study contributes to Trinitarian theology by resituating doctrinal developments within Jewish interpretive history, revealing that Christian clarity about inseparable operations and consubstantiality did not emerge in isolation, but in conversation and often contestation with the Akivan defense of the Shema. And then I have my annotated bibliography. I got my primary sources dealing with divine plurality, all the church fathers, Talmudic references, secondary sources for Jewish context, Siegel, Boyarin, Schaeffer, and then Christian theological context, Adonis Vadu, Hornberry, Hurtado, and then sources dealing with Akiva as authorial function, more Boyarin, Yadin Israel, Zvi, Habertal again, Shane Cohen, Fraud, Rubenstein, all kinds of people. So I got a lot of stuff in here. Let me stop sharing. So I got a lot of stuff in here, a lot of things I got to get through. I haven't even read the entirety of a lot of these books, and I don't like using sources where I've just read a paragraph or a chapter. I have to read it all. I've done really good about this, but in my since I've been a PhD student, I've been able to stay away from chasing all the footnotes. Man, whenever Amanda sees this, she's going to give me grief, because whenever she was a doctoral student, I used to give her grief about not chasing down every footnote. What if the footnote says this and this, and it changes really whatever the source that's citing it? I didn't understand then that you could read certain things and understand the entirety of a book without reading the entire book. But I won't chase all the footnotes, but I do at least have to read the entirety of all these works to make sure I have a good grasp on what it is they're saying, so I'm not looking dumb, because I can't fudge this. You know what I mean? Like, there was some times whenever I was, I don't think any of my professors watched this. So I'll go ahead and say it. But there were some times when I would use rabbinic sources or lesser known authors in master's papers without reading the entirety of the source. I could have been totally wrong. I mean, if I quoted them, I would quote them correctly. I would cite them correctly and things of that nature. But I would sometimes use things so obscure that I knew they didn't know what I was talking about, and I could probably get away with it, even if I didn't use it correctly, which I tried to. But I know there was a couple of times specifically where it was like, is he really saying that? But it helped prove my point, and at the time I didn't care, so I did that. But at the doctoral level, all my professors know more than me, without question. And I'm not saying my professors at the master's level didn't know more than me. They all know more than me. It's just that they weren't grading me like that. So I know they didn't look as in depth as my doctoral professors undoubtedly will. They probably don't even have to look into a whole lot of this stuff. They probably already know it. Like I said on my entrance interview, when Dr. Bingham was telling me about authors, when it should have been the other way around, that I knew then these guys are really about their business and they know what they're talking about. So yeah, that's what I'm doing on my prospectus. This is what I'm hoping will be a good article and will be worthy of presentation and hopefully recognition when I come back for my second RDS. And yeah, that's what's up with school. What's going on with church? So still killing it with the youth. They actually had a funny I don't want to display it all over the internet. Well, it's already on Facebook, but either way, I don't want to. I had a lesson for the youth a couple of weeks ago in regards to balancing all your problems without Jesus. And I always like to play a game that leads up to the lesson. I'm not to move my thing over here because I keep seeing myself, or at least move it down. Okay. What was that? Oh yeah, I always like to play a game that goes into the lesson, and the game that we played was Keepy Uppy. For those of you that watch Bluey, you just keep the balloon in the air, and it started easily with just one balloon, and then you had a bunch of balloons, and you can't keep them up anymore. Anyways, the reason I bring it up is because Miss Minda recorded a small video of the kids doing it and added the circus music behind it. Dun, 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 dun. And so you see them all doing that, and it says trying to balance your problems without Jesus as a caption. It was really funny. I've since then I sort of divvied up. I initially said that I wanted to do 3 devotionals and some kind of theology when the kids really liked the lesson on how we got the Bible. But what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do a different one every week. I'm going to start out with the Bible story. Second week is big questions. Third week is theology, like how we got the Bible. And the fourth week will be devotional. How to manage or how to deal with anxiety with Jesus, stuff like that. We just had our Bible study or Bible story week, and the story I want to bring out stories that are less known, less talked about, and usually less less often heard from the pulpit. Pastor probably won't preach on them too much. And the story I chose was Elisha and him sicking them 2 she-bears on the 42 kids. I thought it was pretty funny. I don't know that they had ever read it before because they were really freaking out whenever them kids were calling Elisha Baldy. And it was a good lesson. It was a lot of fun. And I was hoping that some of my older kids were going to be there because I had a couple of them in mind when I put this lesson together, because on the surface, it's just a story about a prophet and some kids and being mauled by a bear. And, there's some implications for that, but there's a deeper meaning behind that story that has cosmic geography right beneath the surface, and the retracing of steps by Elisha to symbolically parallel Joshua and his conquest. And I thought it was real cool, and I wanted to get into it, but number one, we were almost out of time. The kids wanted to play werewolf again, and that was a lot of fun. But number two, like I said, my older kids weren't there, so I was like, I don't have to go in too deep, but I did bring out some pretty cool stuff, and they liked it. They asked a lot of questions. Next week is going to be the big questions one for them, so I told them to get some together. I'll probably get some together, and we'll have a good time. Big thing though is I'm actually preaching for Pastor this Sunday. He's going out of town, but he asked me to preach a sermon on Matthew 7 verses 24 through 29. 24 through 29. Yeah. About the man who built his house on the rock and the other who built his house on the sand. And it is a message about hearing versus doing. And I'm loving it because it's out of Matthew. So I'm able to preface. I constructed my sermon in such a way that it prefaces all of Jesus' words. Matter of fact, let me go back. Let me preface why I'm doing this with another preface. Prefaces everywhere. Pastor is going to do a 70-week series on the 40-week series on 40 different scenes of Jesus's life and teachings. And he wants me to start off by explaining to the church the importance of doing and not just hearing. And so he gave me this parable to start out with. And being that, the parable is just the text. That's the foundational text. But it's the greater message behind that text that matters, which is number one, hearing versus doing, and how number two, the hearers would have not even considered just hearing and not doing. That was part of it. And so I'm getting into the Shema and what that means. And I'm getting into a lot of the Jewish understanding or Hebraic understandings of Matthew, why Matthew wrote certain ways. I'm going to talk about gematria. I'm going to talk about Matthew presenting Jesus as a second Moses. I'm going to talk about some stuff. So hopefully they like it. I'm almost done. I think I'm about 20 minutes into my sermon. I'm a manuscript preacher. I have to have everything written down. I don't like to just go off the cuff. That's why I like these vlogs. This is like the only time I'm able to just talk with nothing. Sure, I'll pull up something to read or whatever, but other than that, it's just me talking to you guys, and I love it. It's decompression sounds a little weird. Decompress sounds a little weird, but it just allows me to relax. And usually I get through everything I want to talk about, but there's no worry here. Sometimes there's not even no point. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. But with the sermon, I like to organize it by, was educated in a Baptist institution. So my 3-point sermon, and I want to make sure there's an application and all kinds of stuff. So I got to make sure to have that right. And I need my manuscript. Otherwise I'll just ramble like I do here. So I'm almost done with my manuscript. I got about, if I got about 8-9 pages right now, maybe about another 3 or 4 pages and I'll be done. I just got to the Shema portion. So I'm going to put that in there and I should be done with that. Judged by my calendar, I said that I need to be done with my sermon by today. Everything else I've done. So that's the last thing. And other than that, it should be a pretty chill week. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else. I wanted to keep this one kind of short. Especially I want to finish my sermon so that way maybe I can actually like chill tonight for Sabbath. Maybe the family can watch a Sabbath movie. But yeah, that's where we're at. I just recorded the first one was rough. I will admit that the first video that I recorded was hard. It took forever. It took way too long. This time I got a better understanding of what I needed to do. It took me maybe about 15 minutes, 30 minutes with editing because all I did was whenever I recorded my video, and this one's having to do with Martin Luther and his views on sacraments based on what I'm learning in class. I'm making all these videos specific to Martin Luther and his theology because that's all I know right now, right? Like Professor said, we don't know enough to agree or disagree, and I won't get into that right now. But what I do know is a lot about Martin Luther's theology right now, and I am just making videos informing you guys about what I'm learning, right? How many people are going to be in a doctoral level theology of Martin Luther class. So I'm just trying to share as much of that as I can with y'all. So I recorded this video. It's about a 3.5 minute video. Took me about 15 minutes with editing, about 30 minutes, uploaded it. All that was done in about 45 minutes. So not too bad. Did this immediately after. I'm going to hang this up, wait for it to process, download it a little bit later so y'all guys can follow along with me, and hopefully I'll be done with my sermon by then. But yeah, other than that, not much else going on. I don't know if I'll make a video next week. Maybe. We don't have school, so I don't know. There's some stuff I want to do for church. I got to finish my Bible boot camp, and I also got to finish the packet for new believers. So yeah, that's probably what I'll be doing next week in addition to just getting ahead on my reading. So yeah, with that, there's not much else. I hope you have a good week, and I will see y'all next time. Shalom.